Hi, tonight on Barking with the Dog, I'm here with Hurricane Ruth LaMaster, who will be performing at Lizzie Rose Music Room here in Tuckerton, New Jersey. Thank you, Ruth, for affording me this opportunity to have a conversation with you.
Absolutely, Brian.
I know your moniker Hurricane comes from your powerhouse vocals. When did you first get that nickname and who gave it to you?
Well, that nickname was bestowed upon me, I'd say probably July or August of 1979. I was jamming with a group of guys back at that time. One of them, I'm going to give a shout out to my godfather of music, Mr. Dick Garrettson, who is the guy that gave me my start when I was in college, in Springfield College, Springfield, Illinois, in the music department and pre-law department. I know that's a weird combination, but that's what I studied in college. But anyway, we were jamming, and I had a good friend of mine said that, you know, she said, hey, she said, there's a lot of people here in the club tonight that just can't believe that that big a voice can come out of such a little woman. I think you should name yourself Hurricane Ruth. And I'm kind of like, I don't know if I want to give myself a name or not. And, you know, I said, that's kind of presumptuous. I said, you know, let's just let that go. I don't think I want to give myself that name. She's like, no, man, it would be really cool because people are saying that about you. They think that you're like a little hurricane. And I said, well, if you think so, then whatever, kind of thing. And I was knocking it around to the guys, and they were like, yeah, that fits you. That absolutely does. And we were playing with Willie Dixon a couple months later. We opened up for him in Bettendorf, Iowa. And when I got introduced to Willie, and as a matter of fact, he stayed and he was there and heard our set. And he said, Hurricane Ruth. And I said, yes, sir, Mr. Dixon. He goes, just call me Willie. He goes, now I know how you got that name. He goes, you really are a hurricane. He said, in fact, he said, I've been in a few hurricanes, and you're the only hurricane that I can appreciate. He said, don't ever get rid of that name, girl. It suits you fine. So that's kind of how the name came about. And if it was good enough for Willie Dixon to think that it was a good enough name, then by golly, I'm going to keep that thing.
Well, I think you've earned that name over the years. You know, you performed with so many greats over the years, several bona fide rock legends as well as blues greats. Who did you pick up the most from? You mentioned your mentor. Along the way, who else?
Oh, man. Well, I can tell you one thing. When I met, when we opened for John Lee Hooker, when I was a very young woman, you could tell that you were in the presence of blues greatness. Just by the way he carried himself, by the way he interacted with people, you knew you were in the presence of greatness. Very professional. Just watching him work, the way he worked an audience, the way he worked a crowd, I would say that, you know, I picked up a little bit from watching him. I would say Willie Dixon was a very warm, inviting person. I mean, someone that had written so many tremendous songs. I think his book was like over 500 songs or something like that he had written. But he was a very warm and welcoming person. There was nothing ever standoffish about him. And I liked that about him. And he just seemed like you were just, you know, talking to a good friend. And I wanted to be able to be that way with people when they come and see me at the show. That's my nature. I grew up in a tavern. My mom and dad owned a tavern. I was always around people as a young girl. And I would have to say that that's one of the things that I learned from Willie Dixon, just from watching him, is that very warm, very welcoming, very jovial, enjoyed what he was doing, enjoyed having a good time. Now, if you want to go into a little bit into the rock and roll spectrum, Joan Jett is a very playful person on stage. I mean, constantly pranking and joking, and that's kind of my personality too. So I've tried to work a little bit of, you know, the joking and pranking into my performance too.
Well, you have been described as having the power Big Mama Thornton, Janis Joplin's fire and her passion, the energy of Tina Turner, and the soul of Aretha Franklin. That's a hell of a combination. How do you see yourself?
Oh, that is a hell of a combination. I'm a very energetic entertainer. I bring a lot of energy to the stage because I'm excited about what I'm doing. I'm very blessed to be able to do what I do. I see myself that as a person that sings really from the heart and the soul. I call it singing from my socks. I mean, I don't let anything not come out of me. I leave it all on the stage. So I'm very energetic. I sing from my heart. Many times I have to rein myself back in because the emotion of the song sometimes will, can take me to a dark place, or it can take me, to too much of a high. You hear stories about people, that have done drugs back in the day, and they say they've astral projected, where they see, they have an out-of-body experience. There are times when I get wrapped up into my music that I literally do feel like I'm leaving my body and I'm above myself. So I'm a very emotional, very passionate person and performer. And I want to leave the audience with something. I want them to feel like, they could go, wow, man, that moved me. And that's really how I see myself, as someone that wants to move people with my music.
You come from a small town on the Illinois River, and your second CD, Born on the River, is a group of original songs that were inspired by growing up and living in that area.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit about that. Give us some insight into that CD and what drove you to write those songs.
I have to give credit to my mother, Norma Jean LaMaster. My mom grew up in that town. My grandfather was a bootlegger back in the day, and Mom would ride with him to a lot of these places that he delivered his homemade whiskey and beer and bathtub gin and stuff. And she came away with a lot of stories. One of the songs on the CD is a song called Big Helen, and it's about a woman that owned a house of ill repute down by the railroad tracks in my small town of Beardstown, Illinois. My mom knew Big Helen, and as she described her, Big Helen was a hell of a woman. She stood about 6'3". She was a big bone gal, direct words from my mom. Built for comfort. I threw in the Willie Dixon reference there. And she literally did, she carried a straight razor down in her bra. And she took care of her girls. She had the best looking girls in that town that worked for her. And she literally did pick up a John that was giving one of her girls a hard time, and picked him up by the back of his trousers and the nape of his neck and tossed him off her front porch. So Big Helen came from my mom. Whiskey Chute is a little section behind State Street where there were like 6 to 8 bars, and it was called Whiskey Chute. It was a little alley that ran behind these bars where you could, go in the front door one bar, sneak out the back, go in the back door the other, just keep going in back doors, cross over the chute, and go to the other side of bars over there. So that's where Whiskey Chute came from. Dance Dance Norma Jean is the song about my mother. By the way, I lost my mom last September 21st, and she loved a boogie. She loved to dance. She could tear up a dance floor. My brother and I'd be at home with her. She'd be ironing, and she'd put on her stack of albums, and it could be anything from Down and Dirty Blues, like a Bessie Smith, or Ray Charles, or Brenda Lee, or Elvis Presley, or whoever, and we dance and we boogie. So that's how that song came about. So they're all from stuff that my mother has told me, stories, and I still have many stories. Anytime I went down to visit her, I would turn on my phone or get a pad and paper and say, "Tell me about it, Mama," and we'd talk, and I'd just write.
You know, it's fabulous to hear these stories and where the songs come from. You know, and where would any of us be without music? It's just a part of our lives that we just take for granted.
I know.
Your most recent CD, Ain't Ready for the Grave, probably received the most acclaim of them all. Where can anyone get a copy of that now? And is there a new release in the works?
You can get a copy of that on my website, hurricaneruth.com. If you purchase one of my CDs, Ain't Ready for the Grave, I'll throw in a free koozie for your favorite beverage too. Just kind of as a, you know, a thank you too for buying that. You can go to CD Baby, Apple Music, but I encourage folks to go to my website or any Hurricane Ruth show. I've always got plenty of CDs and koozies with me, so.
You've played everything from large blues festivals to smaller venues like this. Do you have a preference?
Well, a lot of people would say they like the big festivals. I mean, I do, and I'm not going to deny that I don't love a big stage, because I make it my life's mission to make sure that I reach every single person that's out in a big crowd at a festival. And I've been known to go jump up on a couple of speakers, PA speakers too, and you know, that do some craziness out there. But there's something very honest and intimate about doing a smaller venue, like, you know, a Hughes Room up in Toronto, Canada that we just performed at, or here, you know, Lizzie Rose Room, where you can literally look people in the eye and see if you're reaching them. So, you know, I can't really say that I prefer either one. I love the energy. You know, there's something very cool about, you know, getting a monstrous crowd ramped up into a frenzy and, you know, get them singing with you. But there's also something very cool and personal about being able to look somebody in the eye and feel like you're reaching out and making that connection with that person.
You know, one of my past lives, I had dabbled a little bit in sales. And one of the first things they taught you was that the secret of sales is the transference of enthusiasm. I don't see that any different than a great performer on stage transferring that excitement and that emotion, because that's what builds it all.
Oh, absolutely does.
You know?
Yeah.
And I agree. The smaller venues like this, where you can be a little bit more personal, a little more intimate.
Sure.
I think it makes up for everything.
Yeah.
You're a member of the Big Dogs Blues group on Facebook.
Yes, I am.
And very glad to have you and proud to have you amongst our members. Is there anything you would like to say to the group today?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for being involved in the blues. Thank you for being involved in live music. And, you know, go out and spread the gospel to the masses. Let's get more people to team up and, you know, to hang out together. I think that that's a wonderful thing that you're doing. You know, I have many friends, many DJ friends that are out there, independent DJs, that are doing the very same thing, that they're working hard to keep this genre alive and growing and constantly evolving. And I do want to add that. The blues, in order to grow, must evolve. You must pay homage to the past, and you must look forward to the future. You know, it's kind of like the Great Coral Reef. You know, one side of it is stagnant water that doesn't have any kind of movement to it, where there's nothing that grows. But on the other side of the Great Coral Reef, it's constantly being bombarded with water wave after storm. And of course, as you probably well know,
or hurricanes,
or typhoons, or whatever they call it over there. It's some of the most beautiful, most abundant growth that could be found on this planet. So that's going to be my, my charge for people out there listening tonight, Brian, is to go out and to spread the word, go to concerts, join the clubs. Get involved and spread the gospel of the blues.
Very well said. Very well said. Who's on stage with you tonight?
Oh man, I'm very proud to call out these guys. I'm going to start with the soul, the boots, the blood and guts of the band, and that is Mr. Calvin Johnson on bass guitar from Nashville, Tennessee. Ray Gonzales on drums from Nashville, Tennessee, and the incomparable Scott Holt from Columbia, Tennessee, which is just a little bit south of Nashville down there. All Tennessee boys on lead guitar. And when I say incomparable, you won't find a finer guitarist out there. I'm going to call him a guitarist. I'm not just going to say he's a blues guitarist. This man is a true guitarist. And I'm pleased to be working with all of them.
All right. Anything you want to tell us about yourself before we leave?
Wow, I'm a workout nut. I've got a 90-pound body bag in my basement that I go punch and kick. And I love to do aerobics. I love to lift weight. I pump iron all the time. I love animals. I love my family, I love my friends passionately, and I love what I do, and I'm very blessed to be able to do it, and especially on a larger platform. I'm just your small hometown girl that's just happy to be out here doing what I do.
Okay. We will be going live tonight on Facebook with at least one, if not more, of your performances, and be posting some photos and video as well. So break a leg tonight.
Thank you. Break a neck. That's better than a leg.
Break a what?
Break your neck. That's better than your leg.
And thank you again for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you.